right. I think we got it.
All right. Cool. Excellent.
So, let's begin this. I am recording this because I will later transcribe it.
Right.
This interview will come out in our March 1st edition.
All right. Cool.
On paper. And then, after that, we will release it on our YouTube channel as an audio interview.
Okay, cool. Yeah, your fans get to hear me all sick. Good.
Absolutely.
Rest assured, listeners, I usually have the voice of an angel. Today, it's more of a goblin.
Hey. So, what's your name and where are you located?
Jupiter Zirkua, she, they. I am located in a tiny nowhere town here in West Virginia currently. Originally from Florida, moved all over to Washington, lived in Illinois, in LA for brief times. But you can't beat the absolutely dirt low housing prices out here in West Virginia, man. Me and my husband managed to find a house that was up for about the price of a new Toyota Corolla. And so we just immediately went out from LA and bought a place here and haven't looked back. There's leaks and stuff in the roof, but it's home ownership. We'll take it.
Yeah, that sounds good. So, when exactly did you move there?
Oh God, it was right at the height of the pandemic, which I mean people can give it's about what exactly the height of the pandemic is still going on, but the 2020 at some point in the summer, we just the lease was up out in LA and that place was so goddamn expensive we weren't looking to stay there another year. So we just stayed pretty much as in our cars as possible, didn't interact with anybody, and just drove straight out here.
Hell yeah. I myself am looking long-term into a different mountain state, which is Wyoming, but for very similar reasons. Oh,
nice.
Seems
I had a buddy who lived out there for a while. It was my place.
Very cool. You know what whereabouts? There's only 10 towns.
Yeah, all I know is that it wasn't a town. It's just literally on the side of some mountain somewhere, exactly. Which is my understanding. If you live in Wyoming, you either live in the one city or just kind of around some goats.
Just not within viewing distance of another human being.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't go visit him while he was out there. That seems terrifying to me. No, thank you.
Well, not to get us totally off track here, but I'm looking forward to sort of building a very sustainable homestead out there, and I think if you're into that kind of thing,
that's the place to do it.
Yeah, that's the place to do it.
Yeah,
but why?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, but West Virginia is a really nice state as well. I've been there a few times.
It's pretty. It's deeply impoverished. Very. Is subject to the will of some busted politicians, but part of the reason we wanted to move out here was to help work on that, be a few decent votes in an area that has been underserved for a long time. But yeah, it is gorgeous. I will absolutely hand it that. The almost heaven thing is because it looks damn beautiful.
Yeah, for real. I used to play down at a place in Huntington. I played down there a few times.
We know some folks out in Huntington. It was family that we probably met when we came out here. Huntington's great. It seems like kind of the actual cultural hub. Mm-hmm. We don't live close enough to Huntington to really get the benefits of that, but we also don't leave the house much, so it's fine.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, Huntington and Charleston, I guess, would be.
Yeah. We're much closer to Charleston than Huntington. Charleston, for a point of reference for nobody but me, has more of a Brandon, Florida kind of vibe of just like, it's like the commerce area, you know, where just
Right.
like this is where we keep our lows and shit like that. Or if you want to like actually have a real selection of alcohol and not just like the same 5 beers, you got to actually go down to Charleston. If you want to buy tofu, you have to go down to Charleston, which is pretty relevant to us as vegetarians. There's like a once a month or so grocery shopping trip where we make all the way down there to get like the good vegetarian food and not the same 3 or 4 options that we can get from the nearby Kroger.
Yeah, my grandparents, well, my step grandparents used to live out in Point Pleasant, right?
Oh
right.
yeah, Mothman Town, hell yeah.
Yeah, Mothman Town, exactly. Really pretty connection to 2 rivers too there. But
yeah, for sure.
What what's the name of your primary musical project?
All right, primary musical project is Stuffy Doll. I do have a secondary one that's it's pronounced Max Damage, but it's like MXDMG, which is a sort of goofy side project I made because I'm a DM for a Dungeons and Dragons game. I put an in-game band, and then like I spent a few days just being like, I could probably make some songs as a little goblin and just scream it out. So it's this like very intense screamo death metal-y kind of little side project that exists exclusively on Bandcamp. But Stuffy Doll is the main project that I've been working on since I think 2015, 2016 is when Stuffy Doll started.
Okay, cool. And what sort of instrumentation do you typically use in Stuffy Doll?
Oh, kind of everything. I know you were kind enough to do that write up for this most recent album and describe me as a hip hop artist, and I always love whenever somebody does like a review of my work because they're listening to like the one album and I'm sure you had to have a moment where you were just like, there's a lot going on in this.
Uh-huh.
And, I do hip hop. I do like more intense like metal stuff. I do some of your like more soulful indie singer songwriter Hozier-esque kind of stuff. The one of the songs on this album called Like a Rhino Ed Sheeran, which is a weird name for a song to have, but it comes from an old neighbor of mine once heard me singing and just doing like a little bit of like light, just like loose pop. So I think maybe, honest to God, I think I was maybe singing Riptide by Vance Story at the time. And he came out all drunk and he was just like, you sound like a rhino mixed with Ed Sheeran. And I was like, that's whatever kind of music I make, it's that. But yeah, I play a bit of everything. And what I don't physically have on me, there's boundless computer programs to simulate. But yeah, I grew up playing music, and taught like guitar and bass and like vocal lessons for a while. And so if you hand me an instrument and give me like an hour, I can probably do something that sounds decent with it. I'm looking over at like all of the different instruments that I just have laying around my living room. I've got like a kalimba and my harmonica and stuff. But yeah, largely I end up like just baseline writing on guitar or piano and then kind of building out a song from there.
Okay. Do you deal at all with like software synthesizers?
Yeah, I record everything in GarageBand right now because I have an iPhone and it's free, baby. That has like, you know, a nice range of options for like any of the kind of basic desires, a few more like weird synthy options that I have like some amount of control over, like fine tuning and everything. I'm currently, and this is there's every chance that this won't pay off by the time this comes out, but I am currently regularly returning to a Vocaloid page that is only like $80, and I just keep staring wistfully at it as like, man, what if I become a Vocaloid artist? What if I just like really jump into the YouTube scene and actually make some real money off of the music?
Yeah, well, how old were you when you started writing your own music?
Oh God, embarrassingly young. Like I think I wrote my first song at like 12 or 13, and it was wholeheartedly just completely like Slipknot and Marilyn Manson ripoffs at the time, because I was 12 or 13. They're like, you know, they have their own melodies, they have their own lyrical content, but like the vibe was absolutely me just doing my best Corey Taylor impression. I can like loosely remember like titles of songs, but I've done a lot of work to actually like, because I used to like post the lyrics on Facebook. Like there used to be like a notes thing on Facebook back when I was a kid, and or worse, like Gaia Online, if anybody remembers what that website was. But I would just post lyrics online because I didn't have any capacity to like make the full songs at the time, but like I had it all in my head, and yeah, I've done a lot of work to scrub a lot of that old stuff. I think the oldest existing like listenable song is my song Exit 31, which is on the first Stuffy Doll EP and was actually written when I was, I think, a senior in high school. That's probably the oldest one that anyone could manage to track down at this point.
Now, when you say it was on Gaia Online, is that anything like the Gaia YouTube channel, which is like kind of mysticism and new agey kind of thing? Oh no, it's so much stupider than that. I mean, using the same like name of the Earth goddess from, I want to say, is that Norse mythology or Greek mythology? I don't know. I think it's Greek. I think it's Greek.
Okay, yeah, but yeah, using that same name, but it's like forums and like light RPG stuff. You get like a little anime avatar and you buy like cool hats for it and shit. It's like just like a 12-year-old's perfect concept of the internet in 2006.
Like Club Penguin, but for wizards.
Yeah, it's definitely like there's a Club Penguin vibe. A lot of my friends, there were sort of like cultural divides within the school of like who was a Club Penguin kid, who was a Gaia Online kid, who was I think RuneScape kid. There were Neopets kids. Like it's all in the same vein. My husband is a Neopets kid, still has a Neopets account. But yeah, it's very much the same vibe there.
And do you perform out very often?
Not these days. I managed to still get myself sick by just going out to the fucking grocery store. But a confluence of things. When I moved from Washington down to LA, I played a few shows down in LA, and the LA scene sucks shit. It's really bad. And look, I'm sure there's good parts of it. I didn't find them in my brief time in LA. And if you're doing good musical venue stuff out in LA, God bless you. But I played a few shows down there, didn't really click with it. And I kind of just got out of the habit of playing shows, such that when the pandemic hit, I was like, okay, well, that's, I'm going to stay inside for that. I'm not going to go do shows. And then moved out here. And weirdly enough, they started building a public stage in our little town. Our little town where nothing the fuck ever happens. the average age of people living here is like 65. I don't know why they built the stage, but they built a stage and a brewery came in, and my husband and I joke that it's just because like 2 cool young people came and moved in, and they're like, oh, we gotta get our shit together. But yeah, I've been eyeing that stage lately as like, maybe I'll drag my ass out and do like a show or two. But I am also.
I feel like you're getting more distant to your phone. Sorry.
Am I? No. Huh.
No, that sounds better.
That's better. Okay. Yeah, I think my mic got covered by my shirt for a second.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I've been eyeing that stage kind of wistfully. But like as I talk about on the album, Getting Me Gives Up the Ghost, which I should say out loud at some point is the title of the album. As I talk about in that, I am pretty severely disabled in a lot of ways. That has like only worsened as I played more shows. I've severely injured myself at several shows, and it's the kind of proposition where like back when I was living in Washington and I had like the Charleston, which is my favorite venue to work at, that I was able to pull like on a mid-level night I would pull like $300 for doing a show, and so it was like, okay, I've got that good free Washington healthcare and I'm pulling in $300. If I hurt myself, like, so be it. But in terms of like getting things set up in a new place where like a lot of the venues aren't looking to pay that much, like, yeah, it's not really worthwhile to me. I put on a very intense show. There's a few videos that still exist online somewhere of Stuffy Doll performances that like, it gets very intense. I've cracked myself pretty hard on the head a few times. I've twisted ankles. I've absolutely shattered myself hoarse to a point where like I found a lot of love for just sitting in my house and writing new music 24/7, like Beatles style. Just like, I live in the studio. I'm going to make a bare minimum 1 album a year, but it's looking like I'm maybe, if I keep on schedule, going to release 3 albums in 2024. So that's where I'm doing most of my work these days.
All right. So are there any places in particular, in terms of the internet, where you put your music or promote your music or anything like that?
Oh yeah, I'm well, the music itself is available wherever people stream music, your YouTube, your Spotify, your Apple Music, all that. Of course, Bandcamp. I always tell people, like, I would love for people to go and actually purchase the album on Bandcamp. That's great for me. That's real money in my pocket. But like, also, we're all broke and life is hard. So if you can't afford that, stream it, tell your friends, whatever. But I'm on Tumblr. I've got a big fan base of young, like 17 to 24 he-theys on Tumblr, who are all crazy about my music. God bless them. I'm on Blue Sky, which is one of the many things that cropped up after Twitter became worse than Twitter already was. I'm on Instagram, because I'm old and that's where old people go, Instagram. But yeah, I'm not on TikTok. I struggle to do a lot of video content. I'm trying to get better about that. Just released a cool animated thing that my husband did of one of my songs, Disaster Taxon, that posted all over the socials. But yeah, TikTok scares me. I've deeply embraced the fact that I'm old. I just turned 31, and I've been old for years. And as soon as TikTok came along, I looked at it and I was like, oh, this place isn't for me. They don't want me here. I don't want to be here. It's fine.
Yeah, TikTok is an interesting medium, and I don't go on it really at all either. Although I'll occasionally watch TikToks that someone else shares to some other social media. But like,
right, yeah, I mean, it's ubiquitous now. Like every video was a TikTok and then got posted elsewhere, right? Like,
what's interesting about TikTok to me is it seems so like the transaction. How could I put it? Like they're not necessarily substantive. Like a lot of like TikTok stars hit like one or two subjects over and over and over and over and over and over
right.
and over and over again.
You have to, like, you just have to keep out on like pumping out content on there, because nothing stays, nothing is like fixed in place for people to come back and find it, really, which is like that's fine if you're into it. Like that's one way for content to work, but I'm very autistic. I don't like change or new things, and I work to avoid that. I try to be a grown-up about it and like make myself engage in new things and break out of my comfort zone. But like I like things that stay in one spot that I can just reliably go back to and find. And like I like a chronological timeline that like I know that I checked in on Tumblr yesterday at 6 p.m. And so if I go back in this morning, I can scroll back until I get to yesterday at 6 p.m. and I've seen everything that anyone I give a shit about posted. And that's not what TikTok is. It seems to have really hit a place for a lot of people. Personally, and look, keep your customs. If you like TikTok, this is not me telling you to get off of it, but it seems like it's indulging kind of the worst like executive function problems and like just sort of exploiting a lot of like mental illness and social conditioning of people that I personally it doesn't click with my brain in a way of like making that all make sense. But if it makes sense for somebody else, have fun. Go to some of the other platforms sometime, because that's where I am.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it does all that too. My main complaint about is inherently superficial. It can't like get into any great depth about anything because it's limited by its format.
I mean that's true of a lot of them though. Like Tumblr, you get like really long form stuff. Like you can really start to like post a fucking like diatribe about something on Tumblr, but like Instagram, it's also like shorter stuff. But like I managed to find some depth on Instagram of like I can make several videos back to back, and if you're just watching my story, you'll see them back to back. TikTok was scratching the itch of like Vine, right? Like Vine came along, and it wasn't meant to be a deep platform. It wasn't meant to be where people discuss great ideas. It was meant to be like a fun platform where people go and make 6-second jokes. TikTok came along and was like, hey, what if we do that, but we give you like anywhere between like 15 seconds to 3 minutes, depending on rules that Jupiter doesn't fully understand. And then you like, sometimes you do a makeup tutorial, and sometimes you spread disinformation about the Israel-Palestine conflict or whatever. Like I think if there's a problem with TikTok, it's both that it's too superficial, but also that it's not superficial enough. It sits in this like bad middle space where people want to engage in deeper, longer content because they feel like they have the space, but they don't actually. Like it's just enough room for you to get in there and say some bullshit, but not enough room for people to have like a longer, more thorough discussion about a thing.
Well, I've noticed it's got a lot of like a lot of the more successful TikTok artists that I can see, they have like themes that they riff on. So it'll be like, I'm a makeup artist, and then I'll just release 500 videos that are 10 seconds long that are clips of me doing different makeup over and over and over, that kind of thing. Yeah. To the point where the artist the artist can be important. I do think it can have like a way of singularly focusing people at a particular person at a certain time, but each actual piece the artist does becomes less important, if that makes sense.
I feel like TikTok is like the sort of meant to be a like, hey, I'm getting your attention with these things so that you'll like come, buy my shit elsewhere or whatever. And to the best of my understanding, based almost solely off of what like Hank Green explains on Instagram or whatever about how TikTok works, it seems like TikTok is maybe a little bit better than other platforms about getting people to like go to your thing and like purchase something or whatever, like click a link out and go actually buy your product. Or now they're trying to do like a marketplace. It feels to me, a person who refuses to be on it, it feels to me like it's meant to be like a teaser of a bigger thing, and some people have just decided that like I'm gonna live on it and that's just what I'm gonna do, and that's eventually going to be a bubble that bursts. Like if you try to camp down on the easy thing, it's that bubble's always gonna burst.
Well, in a way, it's like Twitter was to Facebook what TikTok was to YouTube, in a way, when it first started out.
I see that. I'm just like we streamline, we shorten, we appeal to people's like the sense of like I don't want to go through all the fuss of making a big thing, which like I understand. That's not how I feel. If there's one thing I absolutely want to do, it's go through all the fuss of making a big thing. But like most people aren't like that. Most people are normal.
Well, I mean, oh boy. I think as a form of entertainment, I think it's probably great. It's like Frosted Flakes or something, but as a form of nutrition, so to speak, culturally, it's not great.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a criticism that I could leverage on a lot of the internet, really. I wish people didn't get their like actual information from any form of social media, but they're gonna until somebody destroys all of the technology that made the internet happen and returns us to the dark ages.
Hey, one X-class solar flare, and all the satellites are wiped.
Here's the problem is that like when I was a younger person, like I dreamed about like what if we just like got rid of the internet, maybe that would help. Now I'm like but then I would have to leave my house sometimes, and I don't want to do that. I want to keep watching Netflix's Wednesday that I'm not going to watch on Netflix because I'm not going to pay for Netflix. I have like friends who do the whole like TikTok musician thing, and maybe they're not necessarily TikTok musicians, like they are musicians on TikTok, but because they're musicians on TikTok, they interact with TikTok musicians and people who do that whole grind of like we're gonna post these like corny ass, cheesy ass fucking videos with these like, congratulations, you just stumbled upon a cool punk rock band that's still is still small enough to actually respond to comments or whatever. I hate that. That's the cringiest shit in the world to me. Like it lacks dignity. It lacks seriousness.
You mean because it's self-deprecating?
Yeah, no, I don't even think it's self-deprecating. I think it's like manipulative. I think it's like isn't the fucking dream just to like meet Nirvana before Nirvana is Nirvana so that they can be your best friends? I'm like, you're not going to be my fucking best friend, dude. Like you're absolute, like maybe you are running your social media account, maybe you have a friend who does it for you, but you're just gonna like respond like, oh hey, thanks for supporting, go buy our album here or whatever. Like, it's the same shit that all of us have to do, but it's marketing it as like you're my secret little best friend, just you little guy. And like, no,
it does end up commercializing all of our time. In a way, like it makes every social interaction a commercial interaction, which I don't think that's good long term for the human spirit. Like, I don't think I think in like 40 years of doing that, we're gonna be pretty roughshod and ragged on the internal mental health and spiritual health of the human race if we commercialize every second of the day.
That's certainly true. I try to hold a balance in my heart of like seeing these problems and addressing them, and also remembering that they're not new and they're kind of just what we've always been doing, but just in a different format of like we've commoditized too much of our lifetimes before the internet was even a thing. Like we are. Yes. That is how society works generally.
Yeah, ours does,
it's just like. Yeah, and honestly, like most of them, you know, like
True, but it's because our culture is hell bent on converting the rest of the world to that way of thinking.
Yeah. I mean, we've certainly had a heavy hand in it. I will grant that, but like we didn't invent any of it either. You know, like people had to eat. People had people had to eat. People had to work to eat. Like that's been a thing that people have done for forever. And like,
yeah, but they didn't have to.
I'm against it.
They didn't have to go around the village and talk to every person in 15-second clips about how great their cabbage is and how they need to chai their cabbage that they fucking grown in the dirt. Like this is we have to look at this as a truly unique and modern phenomenon. It's like it's been growing to this for some time, but it's not.
You don't think that guy from Avatar: The Last Airbender had to like go around and tell everyone in Ba Sing Se about how cool his cabbages were until they came in and wrecked his cart all over again?
I mean, like, I think if you go back long enough, you just grew a cabbage because you were hungry.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, you go back and like you're the guy who grew the cabbages. I'm the guy who grows the carrots.
And we're also probably related, or we have some kind of religious or cultural bond that's beyond our like personal individual desires. That's right. Compels you to make a carrot and me to make a fucking orange or whatever, and then we put it together. But it's not like it's weird that we've like alienated everybody and forced everyone to become a constant advertisement for themselves, I think.
Yeah, I agree on that, and I think the level that we've gotten to is pernicious. But I do think like humans are we are a communal species. We survive by and again, I'm about to bite Hank Green again because he did talk about this recently. But like we evolved in groups where like if you were rejected by the group, that meant death. And then we all get surprised that we made these mass-to-mass communication platforms where, like, I'm always speaking to a billion people at all times, and, like, it gives me anxiety. And we're surprised by that. Like, of course that gives me anxiety because, like, the prospect of rejection from the group has historically for a long time of human history, like before we even started like, you know, building cities and shit, has just meant death. If your immediate sphere of people who could hear you didn't like you either died because they killed you or you died because they kicked you out. You know?
You are absolutely right. For 90% of humanity, that's true. Although I would say there are two exceptions to that in the past. One is if you're the king. Then you are the killer.
Sure,
you're not the one that's at danger of being killing. You set the terms. The other, and this is sorry. Let me just jump this really quick. Because I think you'll like this. The other one is the hermit. The hermit has been respected by the community. The hermit can go out, find new things, discover new realities, bring them back. The shaman, the hermit, the monk, and can bring them back to reality and show people something that they didn't see before, and it'll be insightful and meaningful. And they might get killed, sure. They often get killed.
Yeah, I was about to say a lot of them did die.
But some of them don't get killed. Some of them don't get killed.
Look at we killed Socrates. You know, like
right.
There is still like a level of like if we really don't like what you're saying.
There's a lot of you're right. You're right. They do kill them a lot.
And like we killed kings too. You know, we've overthrown great rulers. It's just like there's a different threshold for different people. Of like
right.
if you're just growing the cabbages, well, anybody can figure out how to grow a fucking cabbage. You're very disposable.
Yeah, unfortunately. I guess the king is whoever actually owns TikTok. And then or Elon. I would say Elon Musk with Twitter, but Elon Musk has actually destroyed the kingdom of Twitter. So
we've managed to actually work pretty hard at killing that.
Elon Musk is a regicide. Well. Elon Musk is a regicide at this point.
Elon Musk is bordering on a suicide, honestly.
That's true. He's got a death wish, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to Earth for a second. Sorry, that was a really fun conversation.
No, for sure. Yeah, I was about to say like, we got so far off music for a second. You know who they definitely killed? The musicians. A lot of them.
Oh yeah.
Disposable.
Oh yeah, talk about disposable. Entertainers, though, that's an interesting inversion about modern world too. Entertainers for most of human history have been considered scum. They've been considered like these people are people you tolerate. They just come around and take money from the poor people, you know, things like that. Now it's like entertainer is like the highest goal for me.
I think like for sure. Like I think as you saw, like, you know, particularly there are like less like as we currently think of it, like quote unquote Western cultures.
Yeah.
There's like always been a celebrated place for the musician. Western cultures, there's again kind of a threshold thing of like, if you're a poor, unsuccessful entertainer, you're scum.
Right.
If you're an elite entertainer, and this remains true today, like people, and this is in no way shade because she's one of my absolute favorite artists, and I mean that with full sincerity. I've been on this hype train since long before most people were. Taylor Swift. I know people, personal friends of mine, who have bought Taylor Swift's new album and not mine. and that I don't know how to articulate to them how not only am I offended by that, I think if Taylor knew that, she would also be offended by that. Like, no, I got money. It's fine. Go give some money to your broke friends. Like,
yeah, it's interesting because the Taylor Swift thing is really interesting. I think that, I don't know if it goes back longer, it probably does, but like 20th century, especially 1960s is what I'm thinking in particular. There is this idea, I think it comes from folk music, of the kind of like the populist artist, like the Bob Dylan sort of artist. Maybe John Lennon was considered to have had it for a little while, like where you're sort of speaking, people think you're speaking on behalf of quote unquote the people, you know? And that goes on. I mean,
you're certainly at least speaking in a way that resonates with the people, whether or not you're actually speaking for them, you know?
Right. Well, you're not really speaking for them, but there's these artists, maybe Tupac is one as well, where they kind of have like this image of being, or Johnny Cash, of being like, or Bob Dylan, you know what I'm saying? Like Bob Marley.
Yeah. Like, very like down to earth, and very like I'm just a normal person who's like doing this, and people feel at least that like, okay, I can connect with this person on a very simple level.
On a simple level, and also they're kind of speaking truth to power, in a way. Yeah. They're perceived as being speaking truth to power. But people seem to be giving that to Taylor Swift, but I don't know why. Like, because Taylor Swift doesn't.
It's more for her out of music activity than for the music itself. She was involved in a pretty landmark case regarding sexual harassment, where she famously said, I don't want him to pay me a bunch of money. I want him to pay me $1, and I want this to be a stain on his reputation forever. And got awarded that. She's pioneered pushing back against Spotify for the very low amounts that it pays artists, and even as that hasn't worked the best. Spotify's still fucking artists over, but she has been on a hey, fuck the way that streaming works for a long time. So in her personal life and in how she talks and the things she handles, she completely bypassed all of Hollywood in producing her new. You thought I wasn't fully on this shit. Oh, I am fully on this shit. She bypassed Hollywood to make her movie of her recent tour, which both allowed everybody who wasn't able to afford the insane ticket prices to her tour to be able to witness the event, but also because it was happening during the strike and everything, didn't want to cross the picket line, and she looked around and realized because of all the success I've gotten, I can just pay for this to happen. I can pay people good, real, excellent wages to film it and direct it and everything. And I can go to theaters and say, hey, I'm Taylor the fuck Swift. Put my music or put my movie in your theaters. And they were like, yes, please. We'd like to make $1 bajillion off of that. Yes, that sounds good to us. And completely just bypassed the Hollywood vanguard in order to do so. That is as much.
So she does kind of have a populist edge. I didn't know that.
Yeah, as much as somebody in her position can be kind of punk, can be kind of subversive. I'm not here to say that she's the punk artist of our generation.
No,
she's not.
Okay.
I love her to death. But as much as somebody in a position that she's in can be, she has been.
See, I didn't know about all that peripheral stuff. I was just thinking about her music.
Yeah. I mean, most people know the Shake It Off and everything, and that's even then, people talk about she writes about just love songs or whatever. Particularly in recent years, but obviously over the course of her career, it hasn't just been that, but those are the things that sell. Those are the things that radios want to play. And she's always been like, oh yeah, play that on the radio. People are going to buy my album and then listen to this honestly heart-wrenching song about how the experience of Hollywood has like destroyed young women for generations and everything. Like, they very much like, I've peeked behind the curtain and I hate it here, and I'm going to make it my life's mission to tell you all, like, hey, chase your dreams, follow your dreams. If you want to be a musician, be a musician. You want to be an actress, be an actress. Cool, but know that there are people waiting at every fucking step to try to fuck you, and be on guard for that.
All right. Okay, I can see it then. So
yeah,
let's get back to your music. Let's get back to your music. Have you released anything recently? Are you working on anything you plan to release soon?
Yeah. Okay. So just recently, I released Ganymede Gives Up the Ghost, which is a 17-track album of songs about being trans and disabled, particularly like the experience of growing up in Florida, in a place that was, we'll say, more openly hostile in a lot of ways to queerness, and then moving to Washington, a place that's much more openly accepting of queerness, and the sort of just different experiences of those two things. Particularly, these are covered in the songs Tampa Avant-Garde and Seattle Chic, of like, that neither of those experiences is 100% good, but you know, we go through them, and personally I would take Washington over Florida, but that's fine. But a lot of stuff about disability. I think I've talked about on a few podcasts lately that I hadn't really brought up to anybody before, and I've just found myself thinking about it a lot more as it's become more of a problem, is that this can't be properly diagnosed until I'm dead, but the signs point to me having CTE, which is the shit that was kind of made famous by professional footballers because they get a lot of concussions. I've had a lot of concussions without any of the celebrity or success from playing professional football. It fucked up my brain pretty royally. That's why I try to do interviews like earlier in the day before I start to really have problems as it gets later. I lose track of a lot of things. I drop words. I get distracted and frustrated pretty easily, and that's becoming a progressively worse thing. I discussed that experience on the album. In terms of new stuff coming up, I don't know exactly when all of these things are going to be released, but I do have 2 full albums banked. One of them's fully recorded. The other one I'm currently demoing out and reaching out to some friends about collaborating on, because that one is a rock opera that I ideally would like to have a few collaborations on, because most of the songs are intended to be were written as duets, but we'll see how that goes. But that one's a rock opera about like 4 D&D style like fantasy heroes post-adventure and dealing with like PTSD and grief and kind of a loss of purpose. So real chipper stuff. That's that one. And then I've also got, I'm like almost done recording an album of all waltzes, just oops all waltzes. I got on a kick and I was like, I'm doing an entire album in 3/4. So I do occasionally, like if you look back through my work, I've got the occasional waltz like sprinkled into places, but I figured I love doing them. They're always a bit more of a challenge, and so I'm currently working on, I think I've got like 7 or 8 out of what's probably going to be around 15 waltzes for that one. I'm expecting that all 3 of these albums will release in 2024. One of them might spill over into 2025, depending on just what my work schedule ends up looking like. We fortunately, it's not been nearly as cold this winter as it was last winter, and so I've been able to be pretty productive through this one. But I do shut down like a little lizard when it gets too cold. Like we're doing this interview. I have a space heater about 1.5 feet away from me that I'm just holding my hand at the entire time. Those 3 will be coming out sometime in the next year or so. Be on the lookout for those. Definitely the Ghost Stream, Ganymede Gives Up the Ghost. I'm really proud of this album. It features the voice of incredible comedian and fellow trans icon Riley Silverman. She plays the narrator for a superhero narrative that takes place in 3 parts throughout the album about a young trans superhero who discovers that she has power and like starts off very optimistic and hoping to change her city, that city being Ybor, Florida, and eventually becoming very like bitter and jaded and kind of just like hungry for a fight because of how many bad people there are around her, and then eventually like hitting this point of kind of looking around and realizing that because she's gotten to that point, like she's chased away a lot of people. Like there was a time where people, decent people, not the bad guys, but the good-natured people, there was a time where they saw her as like a bit of a hopeful icon, and after a while you fight enough and you beat enough asses, and it doesn't matter that those asses are bad guys. It's that people, even those otherwise good-natured people, just start to see you as another violent person. And it kind of reflects just the experience that I myself and a lot of other young trans people I've known have had in our coming out process of like the start of like you come out and you have all this optimism, and then you get just wave after wave of like online hate and sometimes in-person hate, and it breaks you kind of mentally, and you start to kind of just read everything as a spite against you, even when it's maybe not necessarily, and how that can just kind of distance you from people. I would like to say that it has a like happy ending. I'm not sure that it does, but I'm also not sure that I'm done writing about that character necessarily. So there may be more installments in the future, but in terms of where I left this album off as a kind of quasi loosely autobiographical take on the trans experience, I cut it off at a time in my life where it didn't really have a great resolution. So maybe, a few more years, if I decide I want to follow up on that story, you might get some more of it.
All right. My last little prompt here is, if there was anything you were hoping to discuss, which I didn't bring up, now is your opportunity to do so.
Ooh, we did get into some shit today. This is the first interview I've done in a while where I didn't really know at all going in what we were going to talk about. Like I've done a few podcasts lately that were kind of more themed, and like I've got a few more lined up that are like very specific stuff. Like I've done a coming out pod with Lauren Flans, talking about just like my experience of coming out as queer in various forms. Did dumb pitches a while back with my friend Monica Nevi. They're talking about a time that I was like in a cult and stuff. So like, one, go check those things out. They're incredible people. I'm grateful for them to have had me on. I think I think I would take this moment to just shout out a couple of friends of mine who are out here doing good music as well. Halian, which is spelled like alien, but Haley Mushmother. She's making some beautiful music. You can find her on Instagram. Teddy Hold On. They're on Instagram and TikTok and all the other socials. Teddy Hold On is as far as I'm concerned, our generation's queen. We are so lucky to be living in a time where Teddy Hold On is making music. Everybody should absolutely go check them out. I'm also fortunate enough to know and have known for a long time an old friend of mine, Jalarina. She is, in my estimation, the absolute best hip hop artist that has ever done it. And she comes from Tampa, Florida, just like me. We both grew up in the spoken word scene down there. You can find her, you can find all of these people's music wherever you get music. Highly recommend all of them. And I always try to make a point to bring up my friends who are doing great work whenever I do an interview like this.
Excellent. And like you mentioned, it wasn't necessarily on theme. I like, whenever I structure these things with music, it's usually musicians, sometimes it's visual artists too. I like to always get into their background, get into their projects and their promotion, but I love it when it veers wildly off course. That's my very favorite thing.
Absolutely.
That's my very favorite thing.
That's how my brain works. Like all of those podcasts I mentioned, like I've managed to wildly divert the conversation into other bullshit. But I like not knowing what's going ahead of time. Like I know some artists will like screen questions with people. I'm too dumb to think to do that, honestly. I had the thought like 10 minutes before we got on today and had a litany of technical trouble. I had the thought, I was like, oh, I have no idea what we're going to talk about today. There was no way for me to prepare. That's very freeing in a way.
Yes, absolutely.
Just like, yeah, I had no homework. I just got to, whatever he asks, I'll just give an answer that's true.
I don't want the interview to be a performance. So that's like, I want it to contain some shred of reality. So
yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, I really enjoyed this quite a bit.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me, man.
And like I said, it will the print version will be out on March 1st. We'll also have it on the website. And then the audio will follow on the YouTube channel not too long after that.
All right, hell yeah. Yeah, oh, by the way, I saw that you also reviewed an old friend of mine, Divided Heaven. Was just, on a personal you to me level, was just delighted to see that. He also did a very good album with V. Is it V? Is it 5? I don't know.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much, man. It was good talking to you.
All right. You have a good night.
All right, you too. Peace.